In today's video, we have some NHL trade talk I'd like to discuss with you. But instead of talking about a trade that might happen, I want to talk about a trade that almost happened this offseason, but didn't, between the Montreal Canadiens and the Buffalo Sabres. We'll go through all those details and discuss what could have happened coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams. So if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned off the top, I have some NHL trade discussions I want to discuss with you here, but it's on something that almost happened this offseason and could have been a huge trade if it had actually happened. Now, as we know, the Buffalo Sabres ended up trading center iceman Ryan O'Reilly to the St. Louis Blues in a fairly significant trade. That trade ended up returning to the Buffalo Sabres Tage Thompson, Patrick Berglund, and Vladimir Sobotka. Now, the trade that we're going to talk about today almost happened between the Buffalo Sabres and the Montreal Canadiens. Now, during the offseason and leading even up to NHL trade deadline last year, there was a lot of speculation. As we know, the Montreal Canadiens really needed to improve their depth at the center position, and that they were inquiring and interested on a player like Ryan O'Reilly. It's something we've discussed here a few times on the channel. While watching the Montreal Canadiens and Buffalo Sabres game the other night on TSN, NHL insider Pierre LeBrun was discussing how this trade almost happened and gave some of the details that's led to believe that was on the table here, but ultimately Marc Bergevin and the Montreal Canadiens declined the offer and decided not to proceed. So here's what was on the table. It was reported that for the Buffalo Sabres to send Ryan O'Reilly to the Montreal Canadiens, they wanted to have 2018 first round selection, the number 3 overall pick, which they ultimately ended up keeping and drafting Jesperi Kotkaniemi. Now, it was also speculated that they really wanted to draft Brady Tkachuk with that number 3 overall selection. So if that would have happened, that would have been huge for the Sabres. They would have ended up with the number 1 and the number 3 selections and ended up with Rasmus Dahlin as well as Brady Tkachuk. Obviously, they had different intentions on how to use that pick than the Montreal Canadiens, but either way, they would have got themselves a fantastic player. 2 in the top 3 would have been completely awesome for that franchise and help them turn things around. After giving that consideration, Marc Bergevin and the Montreal Canadiens ultimately decided to turn down that offer. Now, the negotiations did not stop there. They did continue. So my question to you, especially if you're a Montreal Canadiens fan, if you were Marc Bergevin and that offer was on the table, you had that opportunity to get a top center iceman like Ryan O'Reilly on your team, but it meant involving the number 3 overall selection, is that a deal that you would have made? Even though the Montreal Canadiens and Marc Bergevin ultimately declined that trade offer, they did continue negotiations, and another trade offer with the Sabres for Ryan O'Reilly that was apparently on the table was prospect center iceman Ryan Poehling, as well as some other draft picks on the table as well, which was believed to be a second round selection in the 2018 draft. As we know, the Habs had multiple second round picks, so they were going to include one of those as well as prospect Ryan Poehling. Now, Ryan Poehling right now is a pretty solid prospect for the Montreal Canadiens. He does project to help with the Montreal Canadiens' depth at the center position once he turns pro. Based on his skills and abilities right now, looks like Poehling likely projects to be a number 3 center. So again, if you're a Habs fan and you had that trade offer to bring in Ryan O'Reilly from the Buffalo Sabres and giving up on prospect Ryan Poehling in a second round pick, is that a deal that you would have made if you were the general manager of the Montreal Canadiens? Now, personally, if it were me, I probably wouldn't have given up the number 3 overall selection. Obviously, they thought they were getting themselves a really high-end player, and so far, Kotkaniemi's looked really solid in a Habs uniform. He's gotten a pretty good start to his rookie campaign, and it looks like he very well might stick for the whole year this year. Certainly a very good possibility at the very least. So I do think that was a wise move turning that down, but I think if I were me and I was Marc Bergevin, I probably would have accepted that second offer and moved Poehling in a second round choice for Ryan O'Reilly. I mean, Ryan O'Reilly and a lot of teams wouldn't be a number 1 center, but he's a very, very solid number 2 center. Arguably one of the top two-way players in the game, tremendous on face-offs, and I think he would have been a huge addition to the Habs lineup for sure. And considering where O'Reilly would slot in the lineup compared to where Poehling will be, especially in a couple of years' time here, by the time he turns pro, a lot can change with this roster. I probably myself would have taken that chance. Now, as we know, the Habs ended up making some other trades during the offseason here. They finally moved captain Max Pacioretty to the Vegas Golden Knights, and they ended up obtaining a top center prospect in Nick Suzuki. So we throw Suzuki with Kotkaniemi into the mix, plus what else they already have on their team. You know, things aren't looking so bad. You still got Ryan Poehling in the mix since they didn't make that trade. But if you looked at it differently here and you had O'Reilly, and then you had Kotkaniemi and Suzuki still in the pipeline, you know, that's still not too bad as well. So overall, I probably would have made that second offer trade and moved Poehling for Ryan O'Reilly. But I'd love to know what you think. Obviously, this deal never ended up happening. It's always fun to look back and take a look here once we have more information as to deals that were actually on the table, but never ended up happening. So I want to see what you think. If you were the Montreal Canadiens GM, would you have taken the option here to make one of those moves with the Buffalo Sabres? So again, I just thought this was some interesting information from Pierre LeBrun and TSN. I thought it'd be fun to have a quick discussion here. If you're new to the channel here, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there's plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.